He was definitely not going to make it. Yeah. Yep. Thank you. Yeah, we're short a couple of folks today. Yeah, speak so you can see the presentation at least. Good evening, everyone. It is 6:01 p.m. and we will call this meeting of the Senior and Community Center Task Force of the Charter Township of Meridian to order. We'll start this evening with a roll call. Chair Hendrickson is here. Patrick Malley. Here. John Hood. Josh Robertson. Luann Maisner. Here. Steve Agnosi. Here. Mary Nardo Ferris. Here. Michelle Steed. Here. Suchir Nagaseti. We've got 3 members absent, but we do have a quorum, so we'll go ahead and continue. Next up on our agenda is public remarks. If you'd like to fill out a green card for public remarks, now would be a great time. I do have 1 green card at the moment, and that's Barbara O'Kelly.
Surprise. Barbara O'Kelly from the Meridian Senior Center Advisory Board. I have 2 items. One is that I don't see on the agenda a progress report on land acquisition, and I would very much like to see whether negotiations have started on that and what the status is of that. The second thing is I got a copy of a memo today from Tim Schmidt about a meeting at the Senior Center, which will be on December 4th. And it states that it's to present the results of a needs assessment. And none of us on the advisory board are aware that a needs assessment has taken place either for the seniors or for the possibility of a larger community center. If the survey that was done this summer is considered the needs assessment, we object to that. My understanding was that there was going to be a process to develop the assessment. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public wishing to speak this evening? All right. We will go ahead and we'll ask our staff to respond to a couple of those questions when we get a little bit further down in the meeting. So I thank you for those. Any other, I hadn't seen any green cards. Last call for public comment. All right. So we'll close public comment at 6:03 p.m. Next on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda this evening?
So moved.
Moved by Member Vagnosi, supported by, I'm sorry, who was that? Member Maisner. Any comments or additions to the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor of the agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Next up on our agenda is approval of the minutes. We have in our packet our meeting minutes from October 22nd. Do we have a motion for the minutes this evening?
I move to approve the minutes.
Moved by Member Malley.
Support.
Supported by Member Steed. Any comments or changes to the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval of the minutes as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. Motion carries. In our packet this evening, we do have a number of communications from the public, and we thank you for writing to us. You know, I always appreciate these emails. So without objection, we'll consider those read into the record. Next up, we have item 7, the needs assessment discussion. And I will ask Tim if you could address the question from Ms. O'Kelly. I'd appreciate that in encapsulating this discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. So two parts of that question. One, the update on the Property acquisition, candidly, we're not going to negotiate in public, so I don't have an update right now on that. It's underway. Secondly, though, on the 4th, I did send a follow-up email because there was a typo in the original email. It's the meeting on the 4th with the seniors is intended to be a needs assessment to talk about, get the further input from them on the space planning and what the needs are. And we're going to run through a shortened version of that with our consultants this evening. So this evening, we're kind of starting from a basis of what we did before and in working with the task force and the members of the public. You're welcome to join in. And then with the seniors on the 4th, our intention is to do a little bit bigger of an exercise with them to get further input on that. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to the team at Progressive, unless there are other specific questions for me.
Any initial questions before we hear from Progressive AE?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Come on up.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. So our intention for this evening is to run through what some of the work that had been done previously, but to look at that and reevaluate it, right? Go through it and say, okay, what should be in there? What should we carry forward? What are some things that are missing that we should add into the overall process? What are some things that should be tweaked, right? It's really close, but not quite. And to really get from all of you input back into this overall process. And it's both on overall design principles and, what's important to get out of this project, what's important for the project, what should be there, what should not be there. Those types of items will be there. Plus, there's also the overall program itself that we're looking at. And, okay, what now specifically as far as programmatic items, what should be in there or not in there, what are we missing, those types of things. And then we're going to repeat this, as was stated by Tim, in a couple weeks. We're going to do basically the same exercise with the seniors to then get all that, and then we can incorporate all of it together as a whole then at the end of both of these sessions. And then know as well, right now, we're kind of big picture dreaming, right? We're talking about what all could be in there, what do we need to have. There's also there will be a budgetary line that will be drawn at some point as well. And then we will go through the process of, okay, what can be in and what can be out, kind of a thing at the end of the day. What are higher priorities, what are not? And we'll work through that whole process that's down the road. For right now, what we're really trying to do is just get kind of the big picture items, as well as what are the items that we think that should be considered, and then we'll work through the process of prioritizing and cutting things that won't make the final cut, if you will. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Adam, and this is also going to be a little interactive. So you guys are up there. There's going to be we're going to need post-it notes and try to write out ideas and brainstorm a little bit during this whole process. And we'll do the same with the seniors in a few weeks.
Thank you.
If you would, while you're addressing, if you could at the podium, I'd appreciate it, just because we've got a microphone for the folks at home. And then I understand we'll be up and moving, but while we're talking, if you don't mind.
Knowing you're going to want to be over there, so let's try that.
Yeah, I probably won't stay put. If there becomes an issue with Mike, just let me know and I'll try to move back to it. My name's Adam Hopkins. I'm a design architect with Progressive Companies. And my role in the project is to listen, understand the needs of the community, work together with you to provide design solutions that meet those needs, meet the budget, and provide a successful project. In order to do that, we need to hear from you, from the committee, from the public. As you've heard a couple times, we're going to do a very similar exercise with the seniors on the 4th. But what we're going to do is I'm going to hand, I'll talk at the mic, and then I'm going to walk around and do this. I'm going to give out some sticky notes and some pens. There you go. So I know it's a formal meeting. I'm not sure how the public interaction is versus the committee. You guys can navigate that. But the process that I want to go through, and I will need to be close enough to read it. Hopefully, if,
We got a good sound system, we'll figure it out.
all right, so I'm not getting picked up, then we'll figure something else out.
We got a pen, we won't need, get a pen to be here.
So the intent here is to see this nice blank space here. We need your feedback on what success will look like for this project, or what, I should read it out. What will make this project a success? We've got a series of things, because we have been through this process with a couple groups, but we want to kind of make sure that we're on track and we're tracking things. So what I would like from you is to jot one or two things down, short sentence, could be just a couple words, that talk about what will make this project a success, or how will we know this project is successful. Some of the categories that group those ideas before were the programs, the features that we would have in the space and in the building, of the facility at Meridian Township. So those are just, we're gonna take 1 minute. Jot a couple things down.
Are you focusing on programming or physical space or both?
Both.
Anything? Okay.
Basically, the intent here for both this and this is to say, when we're done with the project, if we're doing this, we know it's a success. Because that way we want to make sure that the design accommodates those things. Does that make sense?
It helps.
Because we got a list of things that we need to have done to be successful, and at the end, we haven't hit those. We know we better resolve it and fix it. So I didn't bring the music to play with, but as soon as anyone's got something written that they'd like to put up, bring up and stick up here. And what I would encourage too is as you stick something up, and I know this is there we go, I can hear myself even better now. We'll try and again have it be this mix of formal and informal. As you stick something up, say the item, we're not looking for a speech, just a couple words as you stick it up so that we can hear it, rather than you having to hear me reread all of them.
One question.
Yeah.
What is the budget for this project?
Yeah, we're working through that. Part of it is understand, we've got a range that we are working towards, but we're identifying what are the features that we need to have in the project, and then adjusting both the range and the project to align.
So,
Yeah. If I could, at this time, what we're in the dreaming phase, right? We're in the, what do we want to see? And eventually, we're going to get some budgetary amounts spit out, and where we have to draw some red lines, the township board will draw some red lines, and identify those places, those things we can include or need to not include at this time. So that would be, we're the dreaming phase.
We need guidance on what you want to do with the stickies for the.
Yeah, this is meant to be as inclusive a process as possible. Feel free to add to the board, and perhaps maybe if Brendan, if you wouldn't mind helping to collect this from the public.
Blurt out some of them.
Yeah, I had it under feature oriented, which are interested participants. And I can, speak from my experience with the senior center. Some activities are fairly small in terms of the number of participants, are individualized. massage is an example. Others, like jazzercise, can be very large. And for example, in our current temporary situation at Chippewa, we are parking constrained for activities. Who else put these?
I snuck in behind you. So I put one up that is, as far as I know, our goal and what I'm going to define project success by the fact that we can come up with a solid recommendation for the township board on location and use. Either a senior center or a senior center, community center, or a phased approach or whatever that is. And then you had one that I stuck up there.
I did. I actually had two or three things I put on one note, so I didn't really follow directions, but that's not unusual for me. One is a facility that is available for community use. So whether people need to use rooms for meetings, of course for recreation, of course to make sure that the seniors are taken care of. And then one that has, if it's got strong community support and also is affordable. So those would be the three things for me that would.
I'm an educator, you're gonna get all.
I'll go ahead and do my opening salvo since Tim is looking to add these up to the board here. So under atmosphere, I have a place for our whole diverse community. And then for role within Meridian Township, I've got filling a hole in our community offerings. And then under program, I've got meeting space for community groups. That's something that we've heard over and over again is, and we're gonna have some duplicates, I get the sense. Ideally, we will have some, some agreement overall, but.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and put these in good locations, but in terms of atmosphere, we've got comforting and inviting. We've got indoor-outdoor connectivity, which I don't actually think has come up before. Along that line, social spaces, and then universal design principles, very important. Getting into a little more technical on the programming side, state-of-the-art technology, strong safety and security, and diverse programming.
You want me to just read them off and then you can put them up? Because some of them are similar. So I had good interactive spaces that are flexible so that we can do different things with them. Easily accessible and central to the community. Something well-designed. The spaces are well-designed. It's inclusive, universal design as much as possible, and then something intergenerational. I know for me as a senior, it's nice when I can also have a space with my grandkids.
Anything else up here? I've got a few more. Green facilities, as well as sustainable operations. And then high utilization from the community.
And I have one more here, and that is adaptable to future changes in need.
And then I'll add a couple that, we did do our triennial survey. And so that these are captured in there, we've got a couple of programming ones that, so the question we posed was, what features would you like to see in a senior and community center? And the top three items were dedicated senior citizen areas, low impact workout facilities, and recreational facilities. So we'll add a couple to the programming. Thank you to our citizens who participated in that. They're also, we also have auditorium space and dedicated youth area, which we could also certainly include. But certainly these top three are worthy of inclusion in the programming area.
When you say facilities, you mean not only regular facilities, but handicap facilities and facilities for people who need even more, what can I say, adaptable
Yeah.
situation.
So I didn't notice if we put up accessibility
Yeah.
on the atmosphere, but we absolutely should if it's not up there yet.
Well, I would say that a fairly new term would be universal design, that the idea behind universal design goes beyond simply barrier-free, or where the barrier-free codes, Americans with Disabilities codes require certain things, but universal design is saying, you know, it is about visual impairments or other challenges that exceed that code requirement. It makes it a better facility for all ages. If you think about a door that might be difficult for someone with a mobility aid to open, it might also be difficult for a child to open. And so that is something that if we resolve that issue, it is universally more available to the users. So we've got a couple of terms up there, a couple of comments about making it more accessible.
Please.
From the public as well. So fiscally responsible to meet the basic needs of the senior center.
Well, that may-
And I'm gonna put these up here because we're gonna like compile them all and make sure that everything kind of fits together. Need separate plan for senior only center. Need phased possibility. More for seniors than just a gathering area. Then create flexible space for seniors. And do not have a wasted entry space as you come in, just the door to enter into the center. And then I've got a couple that have a number of notes, so I will try to go through them. And this is a comment for us for the senior center one especially, make the charts bigger so that they can be legible from back in the back area. Parking and what are the hours and following school schedule, that kind of thing. So, you know, maybe more on the programmatic side or, you know, the operational side of things. And then, again, what is the budget? Another question back up from that. But then free health programs, health screenings, exercise programs, again, free food and kitchen. So on the programming side of things, items that can be in there. And then information about services and field trips, local, non-local types of ideas. So
Put that in the program.
yeah, program.
I want to comment on that last one. I think what that's talking about, the current senior center has what I would call an information cork board, which has all kinds of flyers, all kinds of stuff. Some of it is up there long-term, other of it is for specific dated events. So I think what, you know, to expand on that would be I'm just going to use the term community resource information, like hub or whatever. I mean, some of the types of things that come to mind, transit schedule, transit information, information in terms of resources available to people in need, especially when you get to when you look at the community center, it's reasonable to expect that a community center, because of just population issues or population reality, will have more patrons over the course of a typical week. So, we just taking a look at, and, after 40 years of technology experience, we have a habit of ignoring people. I don't want to say technologically challenged. I'm going to say technologically uncomfortable with presenting stuff in formats that aren't easy. I'll give a best example I have for myself. Yeah, I can read the New York Times off my screen, okay? But when a story starts referring back to something, and I have to scroll to find it, it's frustrating.
Great. Any other stickies to add?
I have a question. Do we have any concept of how many seniors are there going to be, the projected number, say for the next 10 years? Have we projected that out?
You mean from a population standpoint or
Yes.
users of the?
Because schools were built and then now all of a sudden the population dropped in some areas and we have schools that are just practically empty, we have to close them. Are we building a senior center that it's going to be Taj Mahal, and then the seniors that we expected to be there are moving to California or Florida or someplace else? They're not here. How, do we know from past experience how many we can expect for the next 10 years?
So that's an excellent question. On the first bit, I'll defer over to our superintendent from Hazlet. I mean, tell me about enrollment numbers. I mean, are we seeing decreases or are we seeing?
Stable and rising. I can't speak for Okemos, but I can speak for Hazlet that we're sitting healthy right now. And
So you think the seniors are going to be stable?
Well, that's just, I think it's just to say that, you know, we do have an increasing population. We're the only community that, in Ingham County that saw, mid-Michigan truly, that saw an increase over the last 10 years. With regard to specifically seniors, maybe Tim or Courtney.
Yeah, I mean, current census estimates put us at just under 7,800 people, 65 years and older. You know, based on a normal population, projecting going forward, you'd add between 500 and 600 to that a year, and you'd probably drop off slightly more than that, depending on mortality and all that, right? I mean, we have about 1,000 more females in estimate than males at this point. So, you know, our community is I believe 2 to, I want to say 4% more female than male. So like, we have that discrepancy already built in, but you know, our cohort, it's interesting because the 55 to 65 cohort right now is the smallest. And then after that, it goes back to 5,000 to 6,000 people in every cohort going back. So there's a steady growth coming forward. Interestingly, after this one little shortfall in the 55 to 65 cohort. So yeah, the stability is there from a population. We have a relatively stable population tree. We don't have like some communities you have like super heavy at the bottom and it just tails off. Ours is obviously heavy because any community has a pretty solid elementary and high school age population, and then it sort of pinches down and then goes up almost straight then, and it goes back out once you get to the 65 and up. That's our second highest cohort actually, is 65 and up. It's under 18 and over 65.
And how many people are presently at that 65 and over?
7,700 based on the most recent, 7,800 based on the most
So
recent.
we are planning for approximately 10,000 people
That's a,
township-wide? From
I would love to get 10,000 people involved with this facility.
if we're planning for the next 10 years.
I think I understand what the point she's trying to make. I think what we should look at is, as a percentage of the total population, what's gonna happen with the 65 and over or 55 and over cohort. A lot of communities, the country as a whole is the average age keeps going up. So I
Can you
think,
just clarify here real quick, because it's 7,800, but that's not, 7,800 is 65 and up, but how many people are actually participating at the senior center? You may have 7,800 seniors, or maybe 10,000 seniors in the next 10 years, but how many of those people right now?
Right,
is
and-
7,800.
right.
And we did go over those numbers at the last meeting.
Yeah.
And they are still, sort of rebounding from the COVID, timeframe when we saw a significant decline. I think the broader question of overall, 65 and up population, we can make some inferences based on where we expect that to be in a couple of years and what percentage pre-COVID we're using the senior center and where we might expect that to go as we look forward.
Can you just reiterate those numbers that were, like, because they weren't.
It was, forgive me, I don't have them off the top of my head, but
It's like 280, 300.
it was somewhere in currently it's somewhere in the 300-ish range, but we expected it to go up again, further.
Interestingly enough, I can't remember what month, the specific month, but we had a surge in new memberships in the most recent period. So that, there's a steady trend to get back. And the senior center is not alone. There are a lot of other organizations that are still recovering from COVID. Public transit is a good example.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we do have our minutes from the last meeting. Currently, as of today, there's 383 members of the senior center. In 2019, which is our pre-pandemic benchmark, there was about 483. And so we're expecting to at least get back to that number, possibly go a little bit higher once we have a new center and it's more centrally located and so on and so forth. And so our goal, of course, is to make this as available as possible to everyone. And, going through this process, right, the needs assessment, understanding what people want, we're hoping is going to help drive more people who may not use our current senior center as they get more involved. And so that's sort of the goal.
As far as population fluctuations, I can remember when we moved here in 1987, they were building schools. By the time my youngest child graduated, they were closing Edgewood and Wardcliffe and doing that. Now, I think Bennett Woods is getting up to capacity and maybe a little bit beyond, and Cornell needs new space, and I think we're just going to normally see a little bit of fluctuation. I think what we need to do is to plan for expected growth, but higher usage. Right now, we're looking at less than 5% of the population, I think. The 65 and above population, not even counting the 55 and above, who are currently using the current facility. I think if we have a little more discussion about programming, accessibility, the things that people want to see, that you want to see in it, we might be able to get up to a much higher percentage of use, which might not be so population dependent on if it's growing or shrinking.
And the other thing I'll add to that is just from a population growth perspective, Tim and his team are working up over the next year or so an assessment of basically what is developable, right? Where could we see population growth from new housing stock and whatnot, and not to discount a lot of work that he's about to do, but the answer is going to be there's not a whole lot of space that's going to be developable left in the township that's outside of the urban services boundary where we might actually see new housing. Right, there's a big project going on at Copper Creek up in Hazlet. There's a big project going on just on Bennett Road, just west of Bennett Woods Elementary. And there's going to be some new housing in Hazlet and, at the Village Square. But truly, we're running out of new developable land. And so then it'll be a question of, do we change the use of that for senior housing, right? Depending on the needs of the community. And so I think, we've seen a pretty steady increase because we've been continuing to build more and more. That'll likely level off a little bit as we run out of space to build on, and now we're redeveloping and putting people in different places that are already built as opposed to bringing new people in. So that'd be, yeah.
We also take people, like, I look at my block in Tacoma Hills that I lived at for 30-some years. We were the youngest family when we moved in. We were the oldest family when we moved out. And all of the houses had turned over to people with young children. And for a while, we were the only people with young children on the block for a while. So, you get those natural turnovers, those cyclical turnovers in a community. And so even if we're not adding housing, we might be recycling neighborhoods.
Right.
And we've got such fabulous schools in our township that they continue to be a major draw for people who have children.
And plus as well, in our professional experience, of that, whatever the numbers are, right, 8,500, 10,000, whatever the number is, right, of people in that group, there's a group of them that are not, they're in that age group, but they cannot go out. They cannot use this no matter what, right? They're bedridden or whatever the case is, right? We're just going to speak openly, honestly about where, that age group. And then everyone doesn't use it at the exact same time either. Some people don't want to play pickleball, or some people don't want to play cribbage. Some people, but I want to go to jazzercise for 2 hours a week, on Tuesday and Thursday, or whatever that is, right, from 9 to 10. That's what I want to do. Okay, great. So they're going to be there in that time frame. So we don't build buildings and design buildings that can accommodate 8,000 people, because no one can afford that, right? Because no one's going to use it. It would be so spacious that you would never be able, you would never fill it. So what we do is we then hone in on what are the activities, which is this process that we're doing right now with everyone. What are the activities that this community wants to have as part of this that will draw other people to it? And then you use programming as part of the operations of the facility to then draw people in and set those times where you're going to have people here in different time frames. And then you have a wider draw for more people, but it's not 10,000 people every day of the week, from 8 to 5.
And the other thing is we're going to learn and adapt, right? The programming that we plan for on day one may not be the programming that's wanted on, year 5. And so, we'll of course have to, keep things fresh and keep, doing these sorts of check-ins. Is this what you want? Sure.
The senior center has members that come from outside of Meridian Township. So I think that's something to factor in too. There'll
Sure.
be other people coming in.
Yeah.
We want to move to the next one?
Yeah.
I'm going to do something else.
While they're doing that, you want to make your comment?
I'm just wondering, I agree, we want to expand the membership, get a larger percent of the population. How are you assessing the needs and wants of the people that are not currently participating?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, that's something that we're hoping to start to have that conversation here. And, certainly we're going to use some of the data that we got from our community survey, which was open, to, the public. And I know that a couple of our members are of an age that they could be senior center users, but are not. And so that's part of the reason why we got a diverse panel to sit up here and have that conversation too.
But that's true for the community center too. And
Absolutely.
only the response rate to the questions on the community survey, I mean, the questions about the community center were far down. The results that we got were a percentage of those who responded to the questions, but not of those to whom the survey, all of those whose survey was sent. So we might not have hit the interests of the people who are not current participants and who are not actively interested in this.
Right. So, and, I'm not going to get into the statistical, nature of the survey. Our consultant has assured us that it provided us with a decent sampling of what it is the community is, the community that we have. And I understand that there was some disagreement, and, statistics is a challenging field, of course, for anyone to get into, but we feel relatively confident in the results being reflective of the broader community that we received from the survey. But absolutely, we welcome anyone to come and participate. If anyone's watching at home and would like to, send us an email with your thoughts on anything you're seeing here today. This is an excellent opportunity to weigh in. And, I'll also point out that we did do 2 community design sessions the first time around. And so we're not starting from zero on this process either. And so we got a lot of good feedback from those. And a lot of folks who are and are not current members of the Senior Center were out to those as well. So and we're trying to get as much feedback as we can and do as best we can for that.
And on that as well, really quick, just one other point on that. A couple other things as well that we know from our experience, because we've designed a lot of senior centers. There are some things that are very specific to certain communities, but in general, there's a lot of things that are very similar between all of them. And so there's very few things that are shocking where, oh, you want that in a community center? That's interesting. Okay, we've never heard that before. So there's an aspect of this as well to the point that we've had other community involvement, that we've had senior involvement. We're doing another whole round of both of these, that we're going to capture the majority of it. And then the other side of that as well is that most of the time, that we found, the individuals that don't participate are not going to participate in the senior center or the community center anyway. And so to really get their input is sort of meaningless at some point if they're not going to use it anyway, right? It's the people that want to be involved that are and are going to have an impact and run classes or be involved with them. That's where you are going to get the richness of the information that you want to have at the end of the day. So,
Thank you. We're going to take one more, and then we're moving on to the next poster board here.
Okay, I'm money-oriented, and I just think to myself, why are we taking a building, maybe something that's already built, and we say, oh, we can repurpose that into a senior center, like they were talking about Yonkers? But when you do that, you're taking that business, or whatever it was, out of the tax rolls.
Mm-hmm.
So that not only are we having to pay taxes for this new senior center, but it's deducting from taxes we would have gotten from that business. Does that make sense? So it's like a
Sure.
negative.
Yeah.
Negative, whatever.
Well, so we did have a conversation at our last meeting about what possible sites for this. Currently, Yonkers is our 3rd priority on that list. And the 2 that came before it would be new builds. And they would be, one's a township-owned property that is over at the Central Fire Station down here on Central Park. That's one that's up for consideration as we sort of vet those out. The other is currently in use as a driving range on Grand River, just to the east of Dobie and Central Park, or Powell, actually. So as you drive east down Grand River, you'll see the driving range on the north side of the road.
Another to consider is Dobie Road and Kinawa. Do you know where I'm talking? Dobie Road, Kinawa dead ends?
Yes.
That property just to the south of that intersection on the east-hand side, across from Kinawa View subdivision, that is county-owned.
Sure.
And they are glad to, do whatever you want. If you can come up with a plan to use that land, they're more than happy to look at it.
I see.
But some people said it's not central enough.
Well-
But there are buses there, there's a school close by.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll flag that one for our staff to take a look into. We haven't, said yes or no to any specific parcel at this time. If there's leads to run down, we're happy to do that. So, thank you. All
I
right,
commend you
gentlemen.
for having these sessions, thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, if you would.
Absolutely. So it's actually been a very good segue into getting a little feedback on there. It's a good segue into our next kind of questions, and it's about what do we want to keep? We've got a current senior center that has some features that are beloved. That has some features that people want to make sure that we retain because we're moving. We're either building a new building or we're repurposing regardless of where we go, we want to make sure we keep this feature or this aspect of the building. There's also other issues that we don't want to bring along. We've got a few posted here, but I'm sure one of the comments was about lack of parking today. You know, we want to make sure that we have, we identify the things that we do not want to, I don't know why it keeps, must have a magnetic personality.
Right, yeah.
There's no doubt some issues we don't want to bring, and then there's some things that aren't at the current facility that we want to make sure that we create new and we add. And so this is your opportunity to make on a sticky note, put one thing that you want to make sure we keep about the current facility. It doesn't have to be a hard, specific thing, a particular room, whatever, you know, it doesn't have to be a specific thing. It can be an attitude or a feeling. We just want your input on what do we want to make sure we keep, what do we want to make sure we don't move to the new facility, and what do we need to really develop that might be underdeveloped at our current facility. So let's take your, any questions about that?
Did you just read them down?
Well, if I read them down, so here's keep. Under keep, these are previous feedback, and we're trying to get new. But one of the things that came out before for keep, they're a safe and welcoming environment for seniors, activity-specific spaces. So not just general space that could be used for anything, but activity-specific places to gather both inside and outdoors, the ability to host meals. So those are things that they wanted, the previous input said, let's keep those. Toss or get rid of difficult parking. Outdated old classroom vibe. So instead of having it in the old classrooms, let's make sure the building feels updated. We're going to get rid of the old repurposed building and the warehouse feel. So a space that doesn't feel purpose-built. Create a fresh and attractive building that appeals to many. Create a warming kitchen for those meals. Inclusive access and space. Intergenerational activities. Multi-purpose gymnasium. And a presentation room with platform. So those are the create things. So those are ideas that have come out already, but hopefully those won't skew. You can come up with some new and interesting ideas as well. So
Sticky notes. The sticky notes you have to share.
you'll have to
Yeah.
share.
Yep.
Here, I'll give you.
Are we going to keep those and consider those that
Yeah,
they apply?
yes.
So we don't necessarily have to rewrite those?
You don't have to.
Okay.
If you want to hand those out over there.
I've got some.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, as you're handing them to me, why don't you say what they are and then I'll stick them up there.
Okay. Make room for library and printed resources. Okay. It's one of the strengths of the current senior center is that there's typically 20 activities of various kinds sitting around for people to sign up. Rooms for individual services, this is my personal issue. Massage is an example, but there are other types of things.
Now, is this a keep or create?
It's a keep.
Go ahead.
Indoor, outdoor recreation space. And my personal favorite, lots of light.
Okay. So maybe this is a combination of keep and create. Okay. So let's stick it down.
Yeah.
Create.
I've had it, right?
Take you ready?
Go ahead.
Keep central location, add more flexible spaces, add comfortable indoor, outdoor connectivity, and add more parking than ADA parking.
Okay.
we've got 3 creates. Technology area, create an art room, and create more space for physical activity. And then keep indoor and outdoor space. And that would also be create as well, more usable outdoor space.
I got a few for you.
All right, let's hear 'em.
So for keep, we'll have comfortable environment. And for create, we've got fresh design, modern amenities, and a sustainable facility.
Got a few, cultural representation. Don't know if that's a keep, probably a keep, or just making sure that when we design this space, we're keeping that in mind. Social and recreational space in addition to gym space. You know, if we're thinking community center, never too many gyms. And then on the programming side, just robust program partnerships. And then this may already be up there, but the need for multi-purpose rooms with modular furniture for multiple needs. I think everything else I've got has been put up there by others. So.
I have something for create, and it's basically adaptable to future needs. Okay. That whatever we build, have the flexibility to be changed.
What's the next pickleball?
Flexibility
Yeah.
is critical. It gives you that opportunity to adjust.
Yep.
We've got a few more from the room.
Any other ones? We're good? I'm gonna save yours for last. To create a community garden.
Like that idea.
Gym-sized space for jazzercise, access to bathrooms and storage space. So I think if that's again, I'd probably create. Create a seated designated parking close to entrance, actually handicapped. And you don't have that currently, correct? The parking is, it's actually
There's
one of the
some,
things
but
we were
not
talking was the bad
It's a
parking.
little rough right now.
Yeah.
It was a little rough right now.
TOS do not have a rec center dominant space.
I'm sorry, can someone clarify what that means, whoever gave us that? I'm just curious what that one means.
Well, my impression of your initial drawing was, well, here's a senior center and the rest is recreation. Big gym. A big gym that wouldn't be used by the seniors and would be used after hours.
You're talking about iteration 1, the previous version,
Right.
okay.
That
Got
it's
it.
going to be more flexible for the seniors as well as the community, not just have a big gym.
Sure, okay, thank you.
Keep a staff office central to the activity areas. Keep activity-friendly flooring. Toss carpet.
Toss the carpet.
Keep the same approximate total square footage, and with number 9,600 to 10,000 square foot. And finally, and this is the multiple one here, so. A hot tub area for muscle relief, a garden area, and we grow, harvest, share plants, that type of thing, and international information info available on something and presentation. Different cultures and presentations. This would be like a multicultural kind of an area. Good.
I have a question for the person that said keep the same space. Do you mean senior dedicated space?
Yes,
which is what I was.
Keep 9,600 to 10,000 square feet for senior center.
Got it.
That's pretty good now.
Yeah, keep that.
If not a little bigger.
All right. Any other comments or things we would like to add? Steve?
The senior center prepared a list of desires, wants. Okay. Do the consultants have that list?
I'm not familiar with which list you're talking about, but maybe it should.
First iteration, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then we can presume that they've had access to that because they were involved in the first iteration as well.
Right.
Okay.
And a lot of that will actually, there's a lot of that that's reflected in here already. And again, that's part of this process is that now we're gonna make adjustments on that one, right? To say, okay, here's something that's missing, or here's something that we should not have in there, whatever the case is.
I can't help think that, as diverse as Meridian Township is, international, Japanese, people from India, from, they're all over the world. And yet, our senior center does not reflect that. We have one or two people that came from India. And yet there's nothing that says, oh, welcome, people from India. There's nothing that says people from Japan. Come on and show us what you have. I'm curious about your whatever it is. Why don't we encourage people like that? Not people like that, but I would be interested in other cultures to actually talk to somebody and find out. I helped a friend of mine build a little hut. And she's from Korea. Nissan League, maybe you know the leagues. They used to own Twitcher screens. Anyway, it was very interesting. I enjoyed working with her and how she looked at things. And I thought to myself, geez, how dumb I am. I did not know any of this.
Yeah. Have you shared any of this with Senior Center Coordinator Sherry Wisdom? I mean, those are some programming things that she should be,
She could do that
could be
now.
doing.
But perhaps we'll add to the
Yeah.
create section some multicultural programming.
Yeah.
Because those are all great points. Great ideas.
She has this drumming.
Yeah.
The Japanese drums. And they
And the advisory board as well, when they hear ideas, Sherry
Yeah.
should be hopefully implementing some of those things.
we got a lot of talent in this community.
And that's one of the nice things as well, that as Adam and our design team works on a building, that, I've got the magnetic personality.
Let me try something.
Right.
Yeah, turn it around.
So one of the things that we can do, and these multi-purpose rooms and those types of activity areas, and exactly to that point, it can be a programming type of an idea where, okay, we're going to have once a week from 10 to noon, we're going to have a multicultural come and we're going to do, whatever it is, right? Any of these types of programs. And learn about that and have somebody from those cultures doing that type of an activity. What we can do is help design spaces that will accommodate that. And then when it's not from 10 to noon on Wednesdays, whatever that is, right? Then, and then in the afternoon from 1 to 4, it's now a euchre tournament room, right? Or whatever, right? And so that's part of our job, is to be able to listen to all these ideas and then make sure that we've got spaces that can be multi-purpose and that can be utilized for all those types of things.
That's why you're the expert.
And then that's something that then from a programmatic standpoint, then that, having that voice will allow for those types of activities to happen. So, good. We'll move on to our next board.
Please.
All right. So this, I'll read through this. I recognize the font is quite small. This is a series of 3 design principles that came out of the previous work that basically are guiding statements to say this is what we would like to see happen. Our intent is to take the information that we've gathered here tonight and with the seniors on the 4th and kind of adapt these as appropriate, expand them. So this is our starting point. When I talk, the next step, we're going to go through what is in the list of spaces today, like, here's our starting point. We can adjust that, we can move things around, but this is a starting point, and that's a starting point. So I'll read through these, and again, the intent of a guiding principle or design principle is so that as we're going through and needing to make design decisions, programming decisions, we can evaluate those against these statements and say, does that decision or that choice align with those guiding or design principles that we had? I'll read through them and hopefully it'll become more apparent. So the first one is to create an environment of purpose-driven spaces, allowing seniors and community to maximize the use of the investment. So it's really about something that you guys pointed out and brought up. I keep addressing only the public, and I should come back and forth. But the intent is that the space is specific to the task. We still want flexibility, but allowing us to maximize the investment. Second, create an environment focused on people and personal interactions. The building will be light-filled and allow for exterior views. It will have spaces that create intimacy and warmth. So that statement is trying to get to some of the use both inside and outside, some of the issues of sustainability, having that visual and physical connection to the natural environment, and then just a environmentally responsible building. So that's kind of trying to be encapsulated in statement 2. Number 3, showcase the vital and growing community, expand programming for all ages, and provide an accessible and inclusive experience for all patrons. The facility will be planned for future generations of residents and allow for future growth. So obviously, statement 3 is making sure it's accessible, universally designed, and has flexibility for growth. So those are the design principles that we're kind of starting with. What I would say too, I haven't heard anything yet tonight that kind of is contrary to these statements. I welcome any feedback if you would like to add anything.
Yeah.
Steve?
I think ideally, what we're looking at is on both sides, senior center and community center, a mix of gymnasium, I'll use that as an example, of, facilities that are, parts of the facility that have a specific purpose, okay? And then a mix with a flexible meeting area, just as an example. Okay, so that, we're looking at stuff. Certain things need dedicated space.
Absolutely.
And meetings can be more flexible. You can meet in an auditorium arrangement, you can meet in a room like this. So I think it's important that we don't lose meeting space, because it's I know just from my experience on various committees and commissions for this township, finding meeting rooms for the various commissions and stuff, it's a struggle.
Yeah, we had one of our community design sessions in the pavilion outside because there were no spaces to meet inside on that particular date and
In
time.
24 years here, I know how many phone calls the Parks and Recreation Department has received, asking for space for activities and meetings, and we just didn't couldn't accommodate.
And when we hear from our friends at Cattle all the time that their meeting rooms in the Hazlet of the Okemos branch are booked out months and months in advance. I mean, realistically, outside of those, we've got this room and we've got the central fire station room, which is even smaller than this room. Not a whole lot of space that is available for community meetings. So certainly that's something worth holding on to dearly in the design process, is availability for that kind of space.
Other than the restaurants in town.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure Old Chicago would have been happy to have us. And Buddy's has got a room.
Yep.
They're happy to feed you too.
Yeah.
I'd like to add one thing really quick that I've kind of been hearing across the board that I think maybe we can more purposefully put in here. That's flexibility. I know it's embedded in some of the wording that we have in here, but I think that kind of goes to meeting rooms. That could also be card game rooms. It could also be a craft room. It could, depending again on the time of day or the day of the week, whatever that is, right? And I'll go here, a gymnasium, right? That it doesn't have to be just for the youth. It could also be a jazzercise. You've got 500 people now in jazzercise because you grew that much, right? And now you need the gym to do your jazzercise program. Whatever the case is, just that spaces need to be able to be flexible to be able to move as well, like the previous conversation that was talked about, as far as the population and who's going to be utilizing the space. And is it going to be, always this population or whatever, and it's going to ebb and flow, and then that way you have different programs that can be brought in at different times, and spaces can be used differently over the course of the days, the time, and years at that point.
True. I think, daytime children are in school, and that's basically when the seniors are active into the center, and once 3 o'clock hits, I know the center is open until 4, but, and then, so coordinating the timing and the programming with the community and the seniors, I think, so the programmers can handle, and the senior center coordinator works together on reserving facilities for certain programs and activities.
Yeah. I know that there was a lot of concern the first time around with making sure that, the seniors do have dedicated space that isn't used in the off hours, so that they can have space for items that they want to make sure remain safe throughout the evenings, and that's something that we absolutely want to continue to value as well. And so we want to make sure that we're embracing the flexibility, but also respecting the desire for privacy and for security of their space as well.
So the next step that we'd like to do is, without getting into the weeds too far, we brought along this is called a program, or a written list of spaces that's in the building. This list shows square footage or areas in each. We're not going to go through each individual area, but what I want to do is I'll breeze through this. This was, again, the starting point. This is what we had developed in the past, and let you know what the direction was, and if we are missing anything or need to add anything, let me know.
Yeah, and just to clarify, because I know we've been talking, and a lot of this is brought forward from the previous iteration of this process. But it's worth highlighting one more time, as we all know here on the task force, that our mandate is to present 2 proposals, right? One that is senior center only, one that is senior and community center. And so as we're considering this, recognize that what was created the first time around was assuming a senior and community center.
Right.
And so there will necessarily be some changes when we present a senior center only that are not including some of these community centric items. I think it's just worth pointing out that we do have that dual goal for this as we sort of take a peek at what was done the first time around, which was just combined.
Good.
May I ask one clarification? Was this a blank sheet start, or was this designed to fit into the Yonkers building?
It was a blank sheet start.
Okay. And then there was a later step. Okay, how do we make
Yes.
this work? Okay, that's cool.
So the way we work a program is we literally come up with a list of things you want to do
Yeah,
and say, well, a gymnasium, if you're going to have 6 pickleball courts on it, needs to be this size.
okay,
And if you're going to have pool tables, if you want 4 billiard tables, you need a room of this size.
okay.
And so and that's exactly what this is. So then, and we went and looked at a couple different facilities, or a couple different existing spaces. We evaluated some empty property, and then said, all right, well, let's look at, could it fit into Yonkers? Does it make sense there? And then we had to do some adjustments to fit it into Yonkers.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was really starting with the list of spaces that you wanted to achieve, and then how might that fit into the building?
And the good news is that, you know, once we had sort of focused the first process on the Yonkers building, that's a specific size.
Right.
Right, and so, you know, in the, part of the issue with the first time around
And
was
there were
that.
more than just the overall size.
Right, yeah, it became a very expensive proposition because, you know, now we're trying to fit what we want into this big box, right? And that's a lot to maintain.
Yeah.
Now, starting from the what do we want, and then let's design a space around it, we can be more economical with that, with those decisions.
Yeah, I'm comfortable knowing that this is an unconstrained.
Yes.
It is, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
And in fact,
And I think it's
the
important.
square footages, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I'm even tempted to just cross
okay.
it really fast while you guys aren't watching, right? Let's just ignore
I can't
that.
read it from here. It's
Yeah, okay, perfect.
At least I can't.
No,
Maybe
I-
somebody else can, but I can't. You're safe.
I think it's just important for the public to know that this is a blank sheet.
That's correct.
Exercise.
And maybe I will make a suggestion. Let's go through, because to the point of the 2 avenues, right? Senior only and senior/community center. Let's go down the senior list first. Yeah, only. And then if we're missing anything, then shout it out and we'll add that on. We'll write it on there. We'll put it on a sticky note and then add that there, assuming that anything that we talk about as a senior center will be part of the senior and community center. So that way we've got that isolated. Then we can just talk, what are we missing on the community side?
And the seniors will get another shot at this on the 4th of December.
That
Yes.
is correct.
Okay,
Yes. Yep.
all right.
And if you come to both, it may feel a little redundant because we're going to kind of go through the same stuff.
Okay.
All right, so I'll kind of breeze through this and get your feedback. The first category here is just reception and greeting. We're saying we want to make sure we have a lobby and we have a place where there's a person that can sit and greet people as they come in, tell them where the program is, and send them to different program areas. So that's really that reception and workstation. We have every space listed in there too as the vestibule so that we've got a weather barrier between outside and inside. So that's that first group, is that welcome center. The next section is administrative offices that are community related. So there's a list there. Next is activity and meeting rooms. So this chunk is an area that could certainly be used, depending on when it's programmed, for either or any age group. The community could use it, seniors could use it exclusively or during the day. But these are spaces that we wanted to make sure we had for activity and meeting rooms. That included a multi-purpose room for up to 120 at tables and chairs. So like a presentation space with a flat floor.
Again, would that be something for senior center?
The seniors wanted it.
And that's what I want to make sure.
Yep.
Again, right now, our hat is on for senior center only. Forget the community
Well,
at the moment.
the challenge with that
Yeah.
is there's areas that the seniors want
Correct.
that aren't exclusively, I mean, on this list, that aren't
No, that's
exclusively
correct.
senior.
Yeah.
So if it's a senior center exclusively, I would say that space is probably still there. Because it's the same space that they wanted to have banquets.
This is the auditorium.
Large group
yes.
presentations.
Right, correct.
And, I mean, so that's what it
Yes.
was.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, so that's senior center, I just, again, yes, agreed.
Senior and
So it's-
jazzercise.
Yep.
Yep.
Banquets and
good.
jazzercise.
So that was a senior center, yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then a raised platform for presentations. Access to that, a warming kitchen. So the idea of that warming kitchen there is that you could host a banquet. It's not a commercial kitchen, so nobody's cooking meals there, but a caterer or, say, Meals on Wheels could bring in food and then serve for a banquet. The table, chair storage, and then, see, this is one that wouldn't be there. There's a youth rec program, and that was part of, well, Yonkers had a space available, we could use that. So that would not be on the senior specific. See, and these are categorized as senior specific, senior focused areas. So a seniors activity room. In the plan, we said, sure, we've got flexibility, but this one is a senior specific activity room. That was 1,500 square feet. Hospitality and self-serve coffee, so refreshment area that was tied in the concept to around a library, and actually the next space is fireside seating area. So a nice warm place to gather. Billiards and tennis table, or table tennis room.
Put an S there.
So all these right here, I'm gonna put an S and go down, I wanna make sure we don't pull anything out.
Yeah, this whole group
This
is
is all senior.
senior specific that we're planning on, and we're happy to hear more or different things. Bingo / secondary activity room. So the idea would be that we could subdivide that room into different sizes depending on the size of the group being planned. So if it was a big bingo night, you could open up a large room and have it large, or it could be subdivided into smaller spaces. But then also have a small meeting room, so you don't feel like you're in the giant room. Got one for, say, 8 to 10 people. Storage and janitors, closet, enclosed senior, then these are specifically senior center offices for running the program. Both 2 enclosed offices, a shared office for programming of the senior center, and then equipment storage for some of the activity rooms. Then specifically seniors, in that concept plan, we had a near where the hospitality and fireside room, we had senior specific toilet rooms so that they were nearby and really senior specific, not just general public. So those are planned as well. Senior focused wellness, we had a multi-purpose activity room. So the idea here on the, along with wellness equipment room and storage, one might be, and again, that it'll be dependent on what you decide, but the idea here was one of the rooms was open where you could do an exercise class, you could do floor work, whatever you wanted for the room. And then another one might have equipment that is senior specific machines for exercise. And those, because one's open and one's full of stuff. Storage for those. So that grouping is senior specific.
All good with those. Anything we should jettison from that? We have more to go through.
Sure.
Now we're gonna talk about anything in there though that you're like, yeah, we don't want senior center toilets or whatever.
I think that one's gonna probably stay.
Yeah, probably. Correct me. Isn't there some dedicated space currently in the senior center for massage and things like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's something that I think we need to add.
Yeah.
That is not specifically on here. And that's a space that we'll sort through what specifically needs to be provided
Yeah.
to have that
I think
activity.
There was, the first time around, I wasn't as intimately a part of that first process, but I think some of it was, okay, well, we've got a couple of multi-purpose rooms.
Okay.
Could those be used for massage at various points in time? You know, and used for other things at other
Yeah.
points in time.
Yep.
You know, if we're looking for basically, you know, we want 2-3 stalls for massage at any, you know, all the time, if there's that much, you know, usage of it. But we have to be cognizant of the fact that, you know, if we're talking about like an hour-long period in a week when you know, 6 people are getting, I don't know what the actual use of that particular program is, but
They schedule massage all day long.
all in all,
Yeah. From
Terrific.
9 in the morning till.
then that merits
Actually,
We have those
Or
openings.
adding an extra.
actually, as somebody who's been shut out of his massage for November and December because I missed the sign up, that is
popular.
that is oversubscribed.
But that's good information to have, right? That's the kind of information we need.
And there are other activities
Reflexology.
with flexology that are like one-on-one, you know, small group, not even a group, one-on-one, 2 people.
All day long, yeah.
Yep.
And you don't want to be out in the middle of a room doing that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I've got to interject one thing that I found out recently, and that is senior citizens are like the biggest demographic coming through the whole universe here. And doctors are leaving because of malpractice, all this insurance business. And it's getting harder and harder to get a doctor, to get an appointment, all of these. And it would really be wonderful if we had a dedicated space for a doctor's visit. Maybe you have something wrong with your toe and you can't get into a doctor. Well, you're a senior citizen, so there are certain things that are different than a kid that's running track. Do you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And so I would like to see at least somebody, maybe a nurse practitioner, have a schedule, just a room dedicated where they have a place to lay down, you know, they, tongue depressors, whatever, and can give you a brief screening to tell you, oh, well, you know, take an aspirin, come on, baby. Or rub some dirt on it, you know what I mean? And go, or this is something you need to see somebody. And call and say, look, I've got somebody that needs to see you. Because we're getting less and less health care as we get older.
So maybe, what I'm hearing is maybe a small clinic type space
Yes.
that's available.
Yes.
Can you put that on the list?
On the other hand, it seems to me, as I was listening to this list, but I can't remember from looking at the consideration one, that there are more large spaces than we need. Because some of the large spaces mentioned could be used for the same thing, like we.
Shared.
Well, not shared, but.
Well, I mean,
But we have one big area with a stage that can be used for banquets, that can be used for jazzercise, that can be lots of people set up for bridge. And there were several different spaces, I think, that are over 1,000 square feet, and I don't think we need a lot of those.
Good to know.
maybe the trade-off would be less bigger rooms, less rooms, but the rooms are bigger. They have larger capacity.
Well, yeah, I mean, one probably for the senior-only center, one big room would be sufficient. And then other smaller rooms.
Well, and I think what we'll do with that comment is, again, I'm going to look to Adam. He's a professional on the design side of things because that's what he does, right? And so he's going to hear, we have our professional experience of what we know. Okay, yes, you might have one large room, but that means that's the only room you got.
Yeah.
And that means if you've got, a lot of people that want to have a whole bunch of different classes, you can no longer do that. I'm sorry. You can do it every other week now, your program, but you can't do it every week or whatever it is, right? So we will do an analysis in all the different activities that we've already been kind of talking about. And we've kind of got ideas on some of these other things here. And then we'll come back to you with a good, solid recommendation on, we think, bigger spaces, the number of them, or medium-sized spaces, or bigger spaces that can be partitioned off, because we had some of those in our last iteration where, to your point, yes, we can subdivide it in 2 or 3 rooms, so you can have smaller group types of things, and then you can open it up for bigger, right?
Yeah.
So,
I've got a question for Mary.
Oh, go ahead.
How
And I have a question for them.
how set are we for pickleball courts in the winter?
I'm not aware that we have any.
We have not.
Yeah.
we do
Do we have
I think
seniors
Lansing,
besides,
Courtney's probably a
who
better
might
one.
want to play pickleball in the winter? And
I was thinking
Indoor
East
courts?
Lansing was starting something like that, Courtney.
because once,
Mac and Court 1.
yeah, we have winter here. And we might have plenty of space sometime, when during the summer, lots of outdoor things are available, but when winter comes, there's no longer an outdoor basketball court, outdoor volleyball, pickleball, any of those things. And then if we still want to be able to do games and billiards and table tennis, that might get dicey. So I'm voting for adequate indoor pickleball courts because I have no interest in them at all.
Courtney, did you have more information on that, though? Because I'm not.
I will say that there is a lot of interest for indoor. Some of our pickleball players go to Florida to play, but a lot of them will play up until, and Lou could contest this, that up through the winter, they'll scrape off the snow and still play. So there is a great need.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I just quick clarification, because it sounds like the massage rooms are really popular and booked, and I'm just curious, I wasn't aware of that, but maybe why that's happening there as opposed to the businesses in the area that do that? Is it cheaper? Yes,
Yes.
Barb?
Yes, it's reasonable, they're just 15-minute sessions,
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
and they're very inexpensive, like $12 for members.
$15.
$15.
$15 for a 15-minute session.
So it's a more specialized and cheaper and shorter
Is
duration.
that every week or every day?
It's
Every Tuesday.
every Tuesday. And he's adding another day because it's just so.
So it's a particular professional that comes?
Yes,
to
it's
the
one
center.
professional
Okay.
at this point.
As opposed to people going to their businesses then?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
so I think I heard, and I know you're going to go to the next. So I've got S's all the way down here, by the way, so.
Well, some of them are, I think.
And again, we'll work through that, right, as part of this process. I heard pickleball courts as part of the senior center, so I'll put an S by the gym then at that point, because that's what we're talking about all different ideas.
If we do a community center, we probably want them available for the community as well. So I'd make an SC there.
And we'll get, yes, correct, we'll go through it.
I mean, the reality is, as we look through this, and it was sort of the intent of the previous iteration, I think, was that the seniors could use the community center equally as much as, anyone else.
Right.
We've put S's by basically everything but administrative offices and building support at this point.
And building support you need, so it's going to
Right,
happen.
yeah, it's coming. We just haven't gotten to it yet.
Right.
Go ahead, yeah.
Well, and this portion down here,
Not built to.
certainly we're going to have toilet rooms and public circulation, things like that. One of the things that we might have a little discussion about are locker rooms. So the intent on both, we've got a couple listed here of a place to change. So it's not a locker room like you might have, well, I don't want to presume. The intent previously was not to have a locker room like you might have at the Y. It was a place that, say you're going to have a pickleball game and you do want to change before you play pickleball, you could go in, change your clothes, leave some things in a temporary locker. There was a couple of showers, but not like a whole shower facility. So, or when I say that, only 2 showers per locker room. So for just occasional use, and that's like an enclosed space So if I went, I was going to have an exercise class, I might bring my clothes, change, leave my street shoes in a locker. I got particularly sweaty, so after I can take a quick shower, change, and then go out. But it's not like a high school locker room where there's loads of lockers for all-day use. So in there, we had the ability to change clothes and a few people be able to take a shower. So that's the first couple, and then it's a family restroom and changing area. So if anyone needs assistance, you can go in, whether it's children or someone in a mobility aid that doesn't want to be in the larger group space. So we've got that included.
Can I back up real quick, just to those first two? So can we talk about the men's and women's changing room, locker room? Is that something that would be part of it? With any of these activities, right? I mean, whether it's a jazzercise or it's the pickleball courts are there, or whatever it is. Would that be if it's senior center only, again, just putting that hat on, that thought process, then would we have those locker rooms in the senior center? Please.
Well, I think it would depend on whether we have a gym in the senior center or not particular. And my fear is that, we needed 14,000 square feet for the gym in the first original plan, plus the added space for the lockers and showers and stuff. I think that's just gonna be unaffordable if we're looking for a senior-only plan that also will require a millage vote. That certainly doesn't fit within our request for about a 10,000 square feet of dedicated senior space.
And maybe again, we're in the dreaming phase.
Yeah.
Right, so whether it fits in the end budget or not, right, I think we're just in the phase of, is it something that, that people in general want, or it's a comment, right? We're just picking up comments, and we heard that the pickleball courts were a comment, so we'll carry it for now. We will have the reckoning, I'm sorry.
I think it's tie bar to the gym.
Right.
I mean, if you don't have a gym,
We've gone along without it now.
yeah. So I think it's tie bar to, it's tie bar to the gym.
In what way, Steve?
You don't
It
have
only
locker
has,
rooms.
it only makes sense if you're gonna do a gym.
The locker rooms.
The locker
If you don't have a
rooms.
gym, you don't
Right.
need locker rooms.
Yeah, if you don't have a gym, so I think it should be hooked up to that. I mean, it's gonna be by the gym. I mean, that, so I think that's what, I mean, I would say it's tied to the, if and when we do a gym, then the locker rooms make sense.
How many seniors do we have now that are using the facility?
I'm sorry,
400?
thereabouts, yeah.
That many members.
About 600. That many, yeah.
That's
Many
many
members.
members, that's how many members.
So 600 people.
10% of the population.
No, about, 380 members
Right.
and 200 who have used it in the last year.
So, yeah,
Is that about
thereabouts, yeah.
right?
That's how I understand it, yeah.
I think that's pretty close.
Yeah, and again, we can capture the idea that this is something that is wanted, but it may be not the highest priority item of the things on there. We can certainly kind of afford, but it also might be something that attracts a lot of people, right? Just because the current membership doesn't have it and doesn't, doesn't mean that there aren't an untapped number of people who are saying, hey, I would use a senior center if it had this, that, and the other thing. So
One of our
that's something to
design-
keep in mind as well.
One of our design principles was also to design for future, growth, right? So that, and that's gonna be part of this whole thing as well, right? We'll talk through the whole thing, and then some things will not be able to be part of the program. But we're gonna design something that, okay, when it comes time to add that on, because it now really makes sense, then you add it on, right? And so that will be part of the whole process as well.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm gonna say, so when we're done, you're going to provide us with like a list of senior center activity and what those programs and what those spaces would be. And then another one if it was a community center and what those spaces would be. That's going to be very interesting to see because I think they're going to mimic each other quite a bit.
The Venn diagram is going to look a lot like a circle, I think.
The family toilet changing. So Adam talked about that one. Is that one that needs to be in the senior center only model?
Yes. If somebody is disabled, really extremely,
Yeah.
and they are in the community center, certainly they would be able to use the senior, I would hope. But I would say the seniors would probably avail themselves of that more often than somebody from somewhere else. Does that make sense?
It does.
Are you trying to meet the needs of someone who needs assistance to use the bathroom?
Yeah, I'm just thinking of,
Okay.
I don't want to pinpoint, but I'm sure you all know her if you've been to the senior center. She brings her husband in,
Right.
and he's in a total, wheelchair. Well, there are times when she has to take care of things, and it's difficult, when she's got to try and get into
Yeah,
the bathroom.
good.
I'd say both
Good to
types
know.
of facilities would need.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, it's
Good
important
feedback,
for
yeah.
him to be able to get out,
Yeah.
and she needs to get out and
Sure.
socialize.
Yeah,
So having that availability, I think, would be a nice thing to do.
What you're describing is an ADA accommodation, really.
Well, and it goes beyond that to the universal design.
Yeah.
And that was exactly my point.
Yeah.
The ADA only requires a 5-foot by 5-foot toilet
Right.
stall. But we're saying we need a community, or not a community bathroom, but a family restroom so that you can have a couple people go in and
Yep.
work together to be able to use that, so.
and if we had multi-generational programming at the senior center, you might have somebody with younger grandkids that you want to go in with too and help. So
Yep.
I think that makes lots of sense.
Perfect, good.
I think that's a good example, not a flexible space per se, but universal design and flexibility of those spaces
Yes.
because it applies to somebody, whether they're senior or not, that needs a support person. I know I have a cousin that has cerebral palsy that has to have someone with him and he's only 45. And then if I'm with my grandchild that's a male, I can at some point go into the women's bathroom. So it is a nice flexible option.
Well, and sadly, sometimes seniors have got temporary problems with something that they have broken or done
Anyone
something
does,
to. Yeah, I
right?
mean, anybody does, but seniors, I think, are susceptible to falls and things like that. And sometimes you're mobile and sometimes you're not as mobile. So I think that's a really good point. Yeah.
Good.
All right.
So I think that covers the list of things. We heard, and we'll come to you. So we have added kind of massage, reflexology, maybe a small clinic, and then kind of reorganized a couple of the spaces. You had a comment?
I think it would be useful if you could do this before the meeting on December 4th. If you could have a chart like that with two separate columns.
Sure.
One for senior only, one for
Combined.
senior plus community. And then if you could have a handout for the seniors that will be there. So
We will do that,
Because
yes.
we can't see your chart.
Yeah.
Well, and Greg, did you have something you wanted to add? I saw your hand up. Maybe I misread it. Sorry.
I would like to ask that the boards, the presentation boards, if the members of the task force could be provided with electronic versions of that.
Sure.
Okay, because it's just, that I can't see.
Part of our process, just like our last process, we're going to capture all this information. We will have it back in a packet back to you guys.
Okay.
It will be legible. Sorry for those that don't and it will be organized. It'll be together, concise. So that's part of our job to help you.
And let me say too, that because this is a process, we're cautious what we hand out. Like if I gave a handout of this list to everyone here tonight, who knows where that would circulate?
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is take input and hear what you need. We're updating this list when we have a list that, because this was made public in the previous iteration. Once it had been vetted, once we had, the committee had decided that's what we're gonna do. Then we made it public. So
Yeah, that's
I'm just very cautious. It's not my first rodeo where information has gotten out that was too preliminary and premature, and then it causes more problems than it helps. So though I appreciate 100% that, I know you can't read this. I'm standing here, tilting,
Yeah, I can't read
looking through my bifocals to read it, even up here. So, but that's the intent, is to talk about the list and then get input. We'll update it rather than.
And to the point of, the questions about money and the financial aspect of this whole project, right? No matter what they put down on their packet, right, we're gonna have to say, okay, what's all this going to cost, right? And if we remove X, what's it going to cost? And, if we're trying to hit a specific budget number, right, we're gonna remove X, Y, and Z. And so at no point until we say we have this much money to spend and this much, is included in the process, is any of this going to be final, right? This is all a draft until we, figure out how much we can spend on it. We get, we do what we have to do, and then we finalize it. And even then, someone might come to us with a great idea about, hey, we think this is going to be, a use that's more exciting than that, even after the budgetary, allocation. Right, and so, we're working to make what is essentially a flexible process that we can present as a request to the board. The board will go through and, as fiduciaries of the township, residents go through and, I'm sure, nip and tuck or decide what they want to ask for or not ask for, or allocate or not allocate. So this is, I can't stress, you guys have done a good job of stressing this, but I can't also stress enough the fluidity of this process. This is the dreaming phase. There will come the reckoning as we identify what is possible and what is too expensive. But this is I think a good step in the right direction to say, okay, if money were no object, right? All of these things in the senior center could be that were originally planned for a 90,000 square foot building that was senior and community center, right? We've put S's next to almost everything up there.
Right.
And so at some point we're going to say, hey, can't have everything, right? And so if you want a senior center only, it's going to cost a certain amount. We're going to have to cut, pare back from the pie in the sky that we've all just talked about. So that's the financial reality of it.
Yeah.
But it's good to have this exercise, right, to go out there and say, if money were no object, what would we do? But yeah, you're right. It's dangerous to hand out a leaflet that says, here's all the things that we are talking about right now, because someone's going to photocopy that and say, this is what they're promising us.
I have another idea for it. I think we could do multiple of these boards and then have multiple easels that are closer to, kind of around so that, people can see it a little bit closer, but then they're boards that we take back with us to that point, right? So that it doesn't cause confusion, it doesn't cause that kind of a thing. But you'd be able, we would have boards that are like right over here so that you can see it closer.
Yeah.
All right. And
This is the fun time.
Yeah.
This is where we talk about what are we doing, what would we like to do?
Right.
What do we need to get that done? That's what we're talking about now, and this is the fun part.
Yeah.
The unfun part is when we have to cut and slash.
Well-
But we need to dream, and we need to look to the future and not just look at what we have now, but what are the needs of the future? And what about the seniors we have younger seniors coming up, and what do they want to do? And how are we accommodating them? And I think we do need to get to the community as a whole.
Yeah.
And get more detailed information from everyone and get some more, I know a lot of the things brought up tonight were programming type things, but it would be good to get input from a greater
Well, I'm thinking we may have.
Part of the community, right.
We may have a township attorney who says showers, slip and fall risk, you can't afford the insurance. You know, we may have things like that crop up too, that we think are a great idea, and they say, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so this is the good time. This is when we talk about all the fun stuff, and so we appreciate all the input.
Yeah,
This brings up security.
sure.
You know, with this guy came with a knife on the whatever, and I'm thinking to myself, where was the security? You know, he came into a business and started, you know, whatever, killed people. And I'm thinking, oh my God, senior citizens, quick, run. You know, that's not gonna happen.
And that gets into the operational costs, which, you know, we're certainly going to talk about what the operational needs of this facility are as well. But those are, you know, baseline must-have to operate a facility that really isn't germane to the dream phase that we're in right now, right? That'll be a part of the come back to earth phase.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything else that we've, I'm sorry.
My mind is just, and I was thinking, a lot of people have, security pets or, you know. some people-
Emotional support.
Yeah, emotional support. Some people
animals.
have seeing eye dogs to help them. You know, are we going to allow animals into the senior center? Will we have a place for them?
Oh, good question.
How does that work? I don't know. Just a thought. I mean, this is a brainstorming. But
Yeah.
we're getting more
But
than
you also have a lot of people that are allergic to animals.
There it is.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be a problem.
So where do you draw the line?
I think Dan might have an answer for us on that one.
So we've already vetted this through the township attorneys for the township's existing facilities, and if it is I'm not thinking of the correct term, but essentially a therapy or emotional support animal, there isn't anything we can do. You cannot deny access to the facility.
Then you have to have some facilities for that animal to take care of nature.
That would be outside, that would not be an inside.
Like the airport.
We do have facilities inside for that, but not for the animals.
You've seen it, they have those in the airports.
All right.
Is there anything else that we've?
Task force members, anything we want to further dream about? If you do have any brainstorms in the middle of the night, we can certainly flow those through our township staff up to the consultants, and we'll certainly be hearing more from the senior community on the 4th. It sounds like, and that's terrific as well. So yeah, I appreciate everyone's weighing in.
Good job. Nicely done.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So the next item on our agenda is to reschedule our March 2025 meeting. So as several of us have discovered, the supervisor made an error when drafting the first version of the schedule and didn't take into account the fact that we had two superintendents who were both going to be on spring break, and also didn't take into account that my own wife planned a trip abroad for that same week as well, so I won't be here that week either. So in light of all of that, we have a couple of other options for the meeting in March. The first, which is in our packet, is Tuesday the 11th, and then the second is Wednesday the 19th. My preference would be to keep us consistent on Tuesdays, if we can do it. Do we have any objections to the 11th?
Question, when is our February meeting?
I can tell you that.
It is on the 25th of February.
So that will only be a couple of
Are
weeks.
we-
2 weeks.
Are those too close together to be?
I think by the time we get to the 11th of March, we're into the let's give a thumbs up on our proposals. I think we'll probably be in a space where we can accommodate a short hop in between.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, because that one's going to be where we recommend some proposals to the board. So
I just want to recommend that we didn't leave staff enough time to process what we do in February.
We have laid it out assuming that's the choice.
okay, terrific. Any objections then to the 11th of March?
on Friday.
Seeing none, we will go ahead and adopt that change to the calendar. And I'm going to put it on my calendar right now so I don't forget.
And we'll make sure we change it on the website as well.
Terrific. So made. All righty. Well, I appreciate everyone accommodating that. Certainly want us all to be here for the conclusion of our events. All right. With that, we'll open it back up to public remarks. Anyone from the public wishing to make, come on up. You can come to our backward podium if you would.
Let me fix this for you.
Your new thing.
No, that's,
The camera's kicked on, so.
No, I just want to, on behalf of the senior center people that were here, I want to thank Scott and the whole task force for including us in this conversation. It was really I thought, very good meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close public comment at 7:49. Next up then, we have adjournment. Any members wishing to make a motion to adjourn? So moved. Moved by Member Steed, supported by Member Bagnozzi. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye. Aye. And any opposed? We stand adjourned at 7:50 p.m.